y. So it's where the point crosses the x-axis, making the y-coordinate, in this case, 0. So you would need to know that whatever, it would be your x-coordinate when y equals 0. And the opposite is true for the y-intercept. So the y-intercept is the y-coordinate of a point where a graph crosses the y-axis. So I'll do a different color. So if I had this line right here, where it crosses the y-axis would be there. So it only crosses the y-axis at one point, making your ordered pair, the x is 0, and then wherever it crosses y. So the process for finding the intercepts is just something you got to memorize. So if you want to find the x-intercept of a line, we substitute 0 for y, and then we solve for x. So this is just something you got to memorize right here. And then the opposite for the y-intercept. We substitute 0 for x and we solve for y. So right here, the kind of equations we're going to get are not going to be in function form, and guess what? It's going to be okay. We don't want them in function form when we're trying to find the intercepts. So this first example, it says find the intercepts of the graph of 2x minus 5y equals -10. So the first thing we're going to do is they want us to find the x-intercept first. It doesn't matter which one you find first, but in our notes, we're going to find the x-intercept first. So remember, according to up there, to find where this line crosses the x-axis, we are going to substitute 0 for y and solve for x. So instead of writing 2x minus 5y equals 10, we're going to write 2x minus 5 times 0 equals 10. Okay, so what's 5 times 0? 0. So that cancels out, right? And we're left with 2x equals -10. Now what would we have to do to find x? What's being done to x? We multiply by 2, so we would divide by 2. What is -10 divided by +2? -5. So we divided each side by 2. So what that means is we now have an ordered pair. We have an x and we have an y. What did we figure x was? -5. Remember, the first number is always x. And what did we say y was? 0. So now, is this a point that I can graph? Yes. So now, I found where this line crosses the x-axis. The next thing to do, and we'll see on the next page, is figure out where does it cross the y-axis. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the same equation, except instead of replacing y with 0, what do you think I'm going to replace with 0? X. And I'm going to find y. So the most common mistake that students make, I'm going to show you at the end, but they write just one coordinate. Remember, with these types of problems, we're finding two ordered pairs. We're finding one where y is 0, and then we're finding a whole different ordered pair where x equals 0. Okay, so the next one is going to be 0, whatever we find y is. Okay, so now, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find a whole different ordered pair, except this time I'm going to replace x with 0. So what's 2 times 0? 0. And so now I'm just left with -5 times y equals 10. Now what would I do? Divide both negative 10 divided by negative 5? Positive 2. So now we found that the point where it crosses x is, what was the first one we found? Negative 5, 0. And then we just found the y-intercept is 0, 2. Okay? So when I made, this is an ordered pair, remember, when I made x 0, y ended up being 2. So now I have two different points. I have this one that I found first, and this one that I found second. Now we can graph these, and we will graph these. And then all you do is you only need 2 points here, the 2 points we found, and then you connect the 2 dots, and you draw your lines, and that's all you have to do to graph them. So we'll go on to pretend like this isn't already graphed for you. Okay, so in example 2, we're going to do the same thing that we did in example 1, and the second step is just to put it on a graph. Okay, so, well, it's the same one. It's the same equation. So we figured that we found the x-intercept was negative 5, 0, right? So we find it here, negative 5, 0, and we put our dots. Okay, so we plotted the point, negative 5, 0. And then we figured out that the y-intercept was 0, 2, right? Which is here. So we're going to go 0, 2. And then all you do is you connect your dots. Now you don't just connect them, you extend them. Remember, because this is an infinity number of possibilities here. You just draw your line and you're done. So most of the problems are going to have 2 answers. They're going to be find the x-intercept, find the y-intercept, and then graph it. So I guess 3 answers. Okay, so here's examples, and pretend again like you don't have the graph. But here's examples of what homework problems would look like. Okay, so we're going to start here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find the x-intercept. To find x, I make y 0. So now I'm going to write 2 times what plus 3 times 0 equals 6. So I'm going to put this out to the side. To find x, make y equals 0. And that's going to give us, here's what we're trying to find, and my first ordered pair is going to be that. I'm going to find x because I made y 0. So now, what's 3 times 0? 0. So I'm left with 2 times what equals 6? Divide both sides by, and I get what? X equals 3. So when I made y 0, x equals what? 3. So there's my first point. Now you can go ahead and plot that. 3, 0, which is right there. Now I've got to do the same thing again, except I've got to find y. So to find y, I make x equal 0. So I'm going to get this ordered pair. It's going to be 0 comma something. So I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to replace x with 0, and I'm going to find y. So what's 2 times 0? 0. So I'm left with 3 times what equals 6? Divide both sides by 3, and I get what? 2. So now, this coordinate ends up being 0, 2. So this one is 3, 0. This one is 0, 2. And I can plot that. And then I draw my line, connecting the dots all the way through. The most common mistake that students make is they combine these 2. They combine these 2. So people would write just one ordered pair and put this. That is not correct. And you can see that this line does not cross 3, 2. It's nowhere near it. But that's the most common mistake people make. So understand that these problems technically have 3 answers. So you have an x-intercept, you have a y-intercept. They're 2 different points. And then you put the 2 two different points on a graph, and you graph them. Connect the dots.
Wow.
Okay?
Would you also put the points on the graph that
No, this is not a point that's on this line. That doesn't exist on the line. But that's just a common mistake that I've seen people make in the past. Okay, so I want you to try to do, I know that the graph is already done for you, but I want you to try to do this one just like we did number 1. Okay? Try to do it, try to find it, and then I'll give you about 60 seconds, and then we will go over it. Okay? Make y equals 0. So I just substitute 0 for y. So I know